Tyler Perry's Ruthless, Season 5, Episode 14, entitled He Lives. Ruth must convince the highest of her pregnancy while contending with River and Obadiah's attempt to have her removed from power, and a murder places Andrew and the guards on high alert. Listen, this episode was absolutely crazy. We saw where Ruth is trying to convince the highest that she is still pregnant. Of course, River is there chiming in, saying that it's so a lot of blood. She must have lost the baby. Obadiah is also there chiming in, saying any woman that bleeds that much must have been stripped from her baby. And then he also proceeds to say that a whore's womb is not good enough to carry the baby of the highest or carry the baby of a god. So Obadiah and are trying to convince the highest that Ruth is not pregnant, but Elder Mother still has faith that Ruth is pregnant, and they agree that they're going to give Ruth an ultrasound to verify the pregnancy. Of course, this is under the request of the highest, also from River. It was his word, let's go get an ultrasound. So then we see Glitch as well as Heat, and they are in a heated argument. Glitch wants to find his brother Lilo. However, he only cares about the money. And then, you guys, there begins to be a tussle between Heat as well as Glitch. And unfortunately, Heat loses the fire and has to be placed somewhere so that he can cool off after being unalive. So Glitch hides the body. Of course, he's going to hide it in the punishment cooler. Y'all are familiar with the punishment cooler, correct? Well, Glitch definitely drags the body of Heat to that punishment cooler. Keep in mind, Heat is unalive, but Glitch definitely has to hide the body. Like I said, y'all, it got crazy on the Rakadushi compound. But then we're going to see Elder Mother Marva as well as the Sacred Mother. And it is time for the ultrasound. Now, Ruth is saying she's not doing an ultrasound with him in the room. She doesn't want Manny in the room. Manny was the one that escorted them to the infirmary where Elder Mother Marva is going to conduct the ultrasound. Ruth is in so much pain. She is literally in so much pain. She is cramping. She is hurting. She didn't want Manny to see her underwear with all the blood and all that stuff in it. So this is why I think that she didn't want Manny in the room. She also pulls a fingernail file because she has a plan to unalive Elder Mother Marva if the plan doesn't go the way that she thinks it's supposed to go. We see Obadiah as well as River outside of the trailer, and they are waiting for the results. They're waiting to see whether or not Ruth is definitely still pregnant. Now, we find out in this conversation that Obadiah has been giving Ruth something to cause her to bleed the way that she is. And he doesn't deny nor confirm that he is the reason why Daikon is unalived. We're going to see the highs, y'all, and he is losing it. He has that sword in his hand, and he is swinging it from left to right. He is just so upset. He doesn't know whether or not his baby is no longer alive, and this is why I think the highest is super upset. His birth mother continues to remind him that he has no one loves him, and he don't have the right to have a child. There's nothing he can do. He shouldn't want to bring this child into darkness. She reminds him that what can you do with the child? You can't send him to Little League. You can't, do certain things with him. You can't really be a father in the situation that you're in. So it's probably a good thing that this child may not be alive. Of course, the birth mother is there. She's definitely there to torment the mind, the heart, and the soul of the highest. But the highest is trying his best to stay as strong as he possibly can. But without that medication, you guys, the highest is not going to be able to control himself, his mind, or any of the actions that could possibly happen. So then we're going to see where she finally disappears out of the room because he's like, F you. The highest curses out the ghost of the birth mother. So he is sincere about his hatred for the birth mother. But of course, he's telling her, the pot can't call the kettle black. You were no stellar mother as well. So how are you going to tell me how to be a good father? So anyway, we're going to see where Zane is keeping up with her word, and she's checking on Callie. She asks Callie, also known as Ruby. So she asks her how she's doing, and she says, I'm doing fine. How are you? So she's somewhat normal, but then we're going to see the ultrasound, you guys. And Elder Mother Supreme conducts this ultrasound on Ruth. Y'all, we see the blood, but, we ain't going to get into that. But we do see where Elder Mother Supreme, she does get a fetal heartbeat, and she says, praise the Raku, Ruth, you are still pregnant. You still are a mother. She hears the heartbeat, and that's really what Ruth needs, because Ruth was about to take out Elder Mother Marvel with a fingernail file if she did it, if that ultrasound came back not what she wanted it to be. So Elder Mother is excited. She lets Obadiah as well as River know, hey, I got to go talk to the highest, let him know that Ruth is still with child. Y'all, I think that's why the episode is entitled He Lives. It's almost like Jesus for some people. He was risen, he lives, So anyway, the birth mother is there, and she's again trying to torment the highest, but Elder Mother Marvel comes in, Mother Supreme. She comes in and lets the highest know that your child lives, your highest, and the birth mother is cynical. She says, is this who you tried to replace me with? Now, keep in mind, Elder Mother, or the highest, sees two people. Even though one is not really there, he's literally talking to both of them. And Elder Mother Marvel is saying, well, the highest, who are you talking to? He tells her to get out. He tells her to shut up. And she's like, are you talking to me? And then finally he just says, just leave. So he sends Elder Mother Supreme on her way. He says, if you don't get out, I'm going to send you to the punishment trailer. So she finally leaves. Of course, the birth mother is still there, probably big mad mentally, because the highest has a baby, somebody that he can actually love and call his own. We're going to see Zane, and Zane thought that Ruth was out of there. She thought that Ruth was in the punishment trailer somewhere, because she too thought that Ruth was, had lost the baby. But Ruth told her it was just an infection. Now, we know that it wasn't really an infection. Now we know that Obadiah has basically done something to basically take Ruth and, cause her to attempt to lose that pregnancy. I'm questioning y'all. Do y'all think Joan had something to do with the potential miscarriage of Ruth? Because she was the one that brought Ruth some tea from time to time. At first I thought it would have been Elder Mother, but Elder Mother at this point, once she found out that Ruth was still pregnant, she didn't want to jeopardize that, because she didn't want to jeopardize, the loss of the highest's baby. So I don't know. I don't trust Joan at this point. It wouldn't surprise me if she's also working with Obadiah to basically, take out Ruth. Again, who can you trust on the Rakadush compound? But we do see where Joan comes in and she questions Ruth, how are you feeling? And Elder Mother Supreme told me to give you this medicine. Honey, that was the first thing you should have started out with. But she's also let her know that she still can't get access to the money. What the heck is going on with the money? So Ruth is like, well, I don't know right now. We need to just focus on something else. So then we see where the highest has made his way over to the cooler. The soldier by the name of Ben happened to see something wasn't right over by the cooler, and I guess he went and got the highest as well as Rivercon, and they go to the cooler and they open up the cooler, and the highest is like, oh, fudge, we are screwed. This is cartel. He is cartel, because he sees a tattoo that he has on his wrist, and this is a sign. He's seen this wrist. He's seen this tattoo so many times. He's seen it over and over again, especially dealing with Lilo. And we see that your boy Heat is on ice. He is out of there. do not return. And so the highest is questioning, how did this happen? Ben, the soldier, he does not know how this happened. And of course, Rivercon, who's supposed to be on his job, does not know how this happened, but he has the audacity to put hands on Ben. And Ben is looking at him like, bruh, if you don't take your hands off of me. But I don't know where has Ben been, literally. What has he been up to? Because this is the first time that we have seen Ben in a while. Was he still out there in the woods? I doubt it. But Andrew is telling Daikon River that, listen, this is not the time for this. We just need to figure out what is going on, and we need to find Glitch. So the next mission, you guys, is to find Glitch. And of course, we find out that Manny somewhat knew that Glitch as well as Heat were on the compound. They were talking about Lilo because he mentioned that they came up to him earlier and they were asking questions. They were asking questions about Lilo. For the most part, they never mentioned his name, but they were still asking about Lilo. So then Rivercon as well as Andrew go over and talk to Peter. And Peter is saying that, Glitch and Heat were asking him questions as well. They were asking about money. They were asking they asked about George. Why was George walking the way that he was walking? Different little questions like that nobody thought to go and tell Rivercon that these guys are questioning or asking questions about Lilo. So at this point, River literally has no authority, but he is so upset that he attempts to swing at Peter, and then Andrew stops him from laying hands on Peter. But at that moment, y'all, he was so upset. Again, there's no authority with this new Daikon. He was able to get food, but he's not really paying attention to the compound. He's too busy, trying to stay alive, and I understand that, but he's too busy focused on trying to take down Ruth, when in actuality, he is not able to see what's really going on around him, as well as the things that Obadiah are doing. So he walks and he sees Obadiah, and there's not a large conversation or a long conversation between he and Obadiah, but he does tell Obadiah, what you need to do is find Glitch. Don't ask any other questions, but find Glitch. Now, Obadiah is aware. He says that he knows everything. So we'll see if he's able to find Glitch. But we also see the mother, and she walks up to Obadiah and lets Obadiah know, hey, we need Ruth is okay. Of course, the baby is fine. The highest wants me to help her get some type of herb to help her, but the herb is outside of the gate. And I need you to get someone loyal enough to go outside the gate and get that plant that I need. And so this one soldier comes up and she's saying, hey, I need you to go outside the gate. Obadiah confirms, yep, I need you to go outside the gate, but you need to come right back. So then we see the Ruth and the highest, and the highest is so ecstatic. He's, happy that his baby is still alive. Like, he said that he, didn't realize how much he would care about this baby until he thought that he had lost the baby. So, the highest is, they're having another intimate moment in this almost tragic situation. But also we find out that there was a moment where Daikon told the highest, said, whatever nightmares the future holds are dreams compared to what's behind me. So the highest is getting a little bit clear. He's talking and having those delusions of his birth mother, but he's working through that, thankfully, through the help of Ruth. But then we also see where the FBI are outside at the back of the gate. They see that soldier is going to make his way outside the gate. So they're going to pull up on him. But instead of just pulling up on him, he begins to pop off on them. And Cal is going to end up taking the bullet to the shoulder. I think he has on his vest, so I'm sure he's going to be fine. But then we also see that this young soldier who has decided to sacrifice himself, yeah, y'all, he got popped. And then he got popped again and again and again. But I'm like, Cal, how are you going to get any information if you're going to take this young man out? You could have literally just popped to maim instead of popping to unalive, but he ends up unaliving this young soldier. RIP to this young soldier who lived and fought for the Rock, who, y'all, this whole thing was definitely crazy. There's also a moment where the FBI are talking about how they have the money frozen, which is in the name of Joan Williams. So this is why Joan can't access the money. She has yet to put two and two together that the FBI are out there finessing her money. And she also doesn't put two and two together that the cartel is on their neck. So then we see where Ruth as well as the highest were sitting and having a conversation, and Glitch busts into the room or into the trailer of the highest. Where the heck was security at this moment? I'm so confused because normally someone is at that door. But anyway, with the door wide open, we see where Glitch is confronting the highest, and he is telling the highest that you need to tell me where my brother is. You need to give me the money. There's just so many demands that Glitch is making. And the highest is just saying, listen, I don't know anything. I don't know anything. But then he puts the blicky to the head of Ruth. And Ruth is saying, well, what do you want? Do you want the money? Okay, we can give you the money. And highest is like, no, Ruth, like, that's not for you to say. But she's just saying what she can to kind of talk Glitch down from this situation, because he seems like he is ready to pop off at any moment. And again, like I said, the highest finally tells him that his brother is unalived, and she says one of the men unalived him, because he was just a butthole. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, but because he deserved to be unalive. But then we see Andrew, and he finally walks around to the highest's trailer. He's circling the trailer, like, what in the world is going on? So he finally goes in and gets into a tussle with Glitch. And y'all, he and Glitch get into it until the blicky goes off. And it looks like Glitch is the one that took a bullet, y'all. And that was the end of the episode. What are you guys thinking? Any particular thoughts, any speculations, any predictions on the shenanigans of things that are going on the Rockadoochie compound? This was Tyler Perry's Ruthless, Season 5, Episode 14, entitled He Lives. Any additional thoughts? Let me know in the comments, okay? All right, y'all, I'm out of here. Thank you, and I will see you guys tonight for the Ruthless conversation with myself as well as EJ, the TV junkie. And y'all keep your fingers crossed. I would love to have a special guest come through. Any other comments? Y'all drop your comments, because y'all know that we definitely use the audience engagements throughout our lives. So anyway, that's about it, y'all. Thank you so much for tapping in, tuning in, kicking it right here with the girl Ticket Deshawn at All Things Ruthless, home of the Ruthless Addicts, okay? All right, y'all. I am out of here. Y'all have an amazing rest of your day. Stay ruthless.